Welcome to my channel, Mindful Connections. Carrie Marie here. We like to go over life, deep conversations, lessons, and understanding to help build hope and encouragement to help your progression moving forward. So today, I wanted to we'll give some encouragement about personal foundations and identity, self-identity, which is very wrapped up in self-worth, is very wrapped up in your confidence levels, and really can make an impact on your progression and how you progress forward in this walk of life. And one of the things that it really struck out at me is this thing that I notice in our society, in our world today, where there's a lot of people that have a very fragile foundation. And this isn't to be, not trying to pick on anybody. I mean, I've been there for myself. And when you watch other people go through it, it's heartbreaking, especially because you know what it feels like to be in that moment and then what it's like to be on the other side of that. And you might come up across many times in your life where you have to readjust and repair your foundation. And that's okay, because, life is messy. It's never what we expect. I mean, we have hopes and dreams of what to expect, but it's never seems to really pan out the way that we truly expect it to. And that's okay too. So the point is that you don't want to sit there with a rocky foundation, a crumbling foundation, because you're eventually just going to fall, right? You need to figure out what you need to do to repair it, get it back to solid base. And some of the things that kept coming up is people taking things in our society. They can be useful forms of measurement of various different aspects and risk factors and all those things. Take credit scores, for example. Okay, you have a good credit score. That feels good. It feels like a good foundation to be on, right? It's a good achievement. It's great for measuring, whether, for financial institutions, for getting loans, all of that stuff. It's not a bad thing to have a good credit score. But the sad thing is when I start to see people that feel ashamed for a bad credit score. Now, I understand that shame because we're all at different points in our life. But I guess in my opinion, when I start to see people take that as a very measurement of their worth. I heard somebody had said, oh, I didn't know my credit score was that good. I didn't know I was such a good person. Wait a minute. It's great that your credit score is that good, but that has no bearing on whether or not you're a good person. And that it breaks my heart because, quite frankly, that tells me there is a lack, there's cracks in that foundation. And again, likewise, I had a conversation about social media with my oldest daughter the other day. And, we were discussing different things, different aspects of social media, algorithms, all of that stuff. And we were trying to have a real conversation to make sure she's aware of the fakeness that is out there. Because let's face it, there's a lot of fakeness out there. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And we wanted to make sure that her identity and self-worth wasn't wrapped up into a specific outcome within that social media setting. So, again, it's this dynamic of if there's a lacking, that somehow that means something negative on your self-worth. And the reason I wanted to discuss this a little bit more is because this is such a common thing in so many different aspects of life. Whether you've had good credit and then you lost your credit because you had an accident, you were out of work for a while, lost your job, then you lost your house, that's going to have a negative ding on your credit. That doesn't mean you're not a good person, because after a certain duration, you're probably picking things back up and you're able to get things rolling again, but you still have this negative ding on your credit score, right? So you see the difference there. Or you're brand new, you're 18, you don't have any credit yet, and that looks negative, right? But you have to understand, you are where you're at because you're just starting. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're insufficient. It just means that's where you're at. You're starting. Now, that doesn't mean you have goals that you can achieve, and you can change that. And you have some decisions to make on that. Okay? Likewise, social media, same thing. You can have absolutely the best speaker out there, and they have not figured out how the algorithm works, or they haven't reached the audience that's meant for them. And that's, and that can, result in not a lot of likes. Or, some people, maybe it's reaching the wrong audience and they're putting hateful comments in the section, right? The reality is, that doesn't determine your self-worth. That's just a fact and status, a measurement of where you're at in that progression of whatever it is you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve, wherever you're sitting with that. And, likewise, here, let's simplify it again. Okay, so what about the person who is got a fantastic career? They love their job, they've got the great education, good family life, whatever marks of success that society normally thinks of is, that person's making it. That person's, they've got it going, right? And then let's say they get cancer. And they go through rigorous treatments. And they end up really in poor health. Not able to hold their same job anymore. Having to rely on people. Using up resources. And now, I personally know what the kind of toll that can take on someone's psyche. It can make you feel like the worst of a person. But in reality, that person didn't ask to have cancer. It wasn't a measurement or bearing on whether or not that was a good person. Cancer hits people that are good and bad alike. It's just a measurement of reality of where they're at, their circumstance of what they're going through in life. And I was always taught that, it's important to have a firm foundation in God. And this is honestly one of the things that got me through so many adversities, and still does. It always will. Because when you're in those moments where you feel so insignificant, so insufficient, that question will arise. And then when you start to sit in that place long enough, hopefully eventually you'll have this fight come out inside where you're like, God, shake this up. Tell me the truth here. Show me what this life that I'm living is really supposed to be. Because you don't get to choose the cards that get dealt to you. And that's okay. You just have to learn how to read and assess and play with the cards as they're dealt to you. And make a choice in the process. So, having that firm foundation, recognizing that, you're worth it. You matter. Things happen in life. This humanity is hard. It is messy. Life is a rocky road. You can stumble on every stone you come across, or you can learn to recognize the boulders as they come along. And sometimes you have that decision of whether or not you're going to stand stuck there in front of that boulder, or you're going to find a way either over it, around it, or through it. Either way, your walk is necessary to reach your destination. So, have that firm foundation. When you are falling or scraping your knees or going through a good pair of shoes, wearing holes in it, what's going to pick you back up? Who's going to hand you a new pair of shoes? And who's going to carry you when you need to heal? And when you do arise at the boulders, who's going to help you understand the best way to get through that boulder? And this is something that is, it's a great thing to sit back, deeply think about, and try to really understand. Because no good house is built on bad foundation. It will not continue to stand. Likewise, a house of cards. If you got one card out of place at the bottom or anywhere else in the whole thing, it comes tumbling down. So, finding your solid ground in your foundation, understanding who you are, how important you are, what you mean to God, what you mean to your family, and let me get to this, okay? So some family members do not appreciate you, and that's unfortunate. That is sad. But for those of you that are in that situation, you do matter. You are loved and you are important. I don't want you to go through life thinking differently or feeling differently. And it will take time to learn what that really means when I say that you are loved and you are important. You will have to go through that journey of discovering how to get a new pair of shoes so that you can keep going on your walk. And this is the core of it. This is why I teach my kids this. Because there will be moments that life will come at you that will try to break you and will rip the rug out from underneath you. And if it does rip the rug out from underneath you, it's okay. Just learn how to settle yourself. Sit down, understand where you're at, and assess in that space how you're going to rebuild your foundation and get back on your feet, get a new pair of shoes, and continue your walk so that you can reach your destination. So, you've got this. God's got this. And He's got you. All right? So have a good week.